Hey, I'm PJ, ex-gym founder, health and fitness researcher, and I got this video from a friend that I found was really interesting. It's from CBS, which is certainly mainstream, and I was just, of course, skeptical right off the bat because, I'm a skeptic. I just don't believe anything anyone ever tells me until I investigate it for myself. But I'm especially skeptical against the mainstream. So this CBS video. So I thought, well, I'm going to fact check CBS and this guy and, just see for myself if what he says is credible or not. All right. So why would you want to get a vaccine? Well, to prevent your death. You don't want to die, and to prevent giving it to others, and to prevent getting sick because you don't want the discomfort of the symptoms, and to prevent long-term damage from the virus, especially with this one because it can cause that. You also want immunity from future infections. So you don't have to keep getting the darn thing all the time. And your natural immune system does that. So you would want it to at least come close to your natural innate immune system that God gave you. You also want immunity from reinfection. You don't want to get the same thing again because the innate immune system is good at that. So you want the vaccine to be good at that too. And you want immunity from close mutations of the virus. So cousin mutations within the same kind of family, which your innate immune system does. So you want that from a vaccine that's man-made as well. So let's just keep all that in mind when we look at the video I'm going to pull up and what the guy's saying in the video. So here's the start of it, and we'll pause at certain points to discuss.
Hi there. I am David Agus. I am a CBS News contributor and a professor of medicine at the University of Southern California, and I'm here to answer your questions on the coronavirus vaccine. Well, let's...
Okay. So CBS News contributor, red flag right there. And then, so he's super biased. I am too, admittedly. I am biased against the mass media because they are wrong way more than they're right. And so this guy is a professor. Let's see what he has to say.
Do it. All right, number one. Of the potential vaccine candidates, which one should I take? Is one better? Should I take all three to maximize efficacy? The bottom line is they are all great. They all block 100% getting very ill or hospitalized to the virus, which is the goal.
Okay, so let's just back up. They all block 100. First of all, only one is out. That's the Pfizer. Moderna is quick on his way, and AstraZeneca is close behind that. So he's saying they all block 100% getting very ill. Just the first sentence is misleading. They all block 100%. So lay people see 100% and they're like, oh my gosh, it's 100% effective. This is great. And the estimates are over so far from the drug companies that are making them they say they're over 90% effective. For what? Well, we're going to find that out. But he's saying it's 100% effective getting very ill. So what he's saying is 100% of the people will not get very ill or hospitalized with this virus. Really? That's not possible. So let's see what else he has to say.
100% getting very ill or hospitalized to the virus, which is the goal, and they are all remarkably safe.
Okay, we're going to be talking about that with some documents I found, which are the product inserts for these vaccines on the FDA website. So he's saying they're all the same safety and they all have the same safety profile across the board. Okay, we'll see if you're right in a couple months when the real data comes in after this mass experiment is over with the U.S. population as the guinea pigs.
Same safety profile across the board. So I would take the first one you could get. So if you're
Good Lord. So he's saying, don't look into it. don't research which of the three that are going to be all available soon would be best for you. Just rush in and just go do it. So he's saying, go ahead, just go with the Pfizer.
I would grab it because a day sooner means a day sooner you will have immunity, which is obviously better for all of us.
Yeah, because you're a public servant to everybody else. So you're helping yourself, but you're also helping everybody else.
If I take the vaccine, does that mean I can travel, roam around freely with no mask and do all the things I did pre-COVID? No, when you take the vaccine.
Okay, so one of the main reasons that most people want a vaccine is so they don't have to stay under all these draconian mandates and being forced to do things against their choice. So he's saying, no, you're still going to have to do all those things. It's not going to fix it. Then he's going to say here, when you take the vaccine, you'll dramatically reduce your risk of getting the virus. Okay, that's what the drug companies say.
You will dramatically reduce your risk of getting the virus and also eliminate the chance of being hospitalized. But
so again, he's going back to the 100% chance that you, if you take the vaccine, you will not have to go to the hospital. Eliminate the chance.
There's a small percentage that may get a little runny nose or a little cold, and you can spread the virus.
Okay, so if you get the vaccine, you might still get kind of sick, and you're still going to be a spreader. So earlier when he said, this is good for you and to help others, he's already contradicted himself. You can still spread it, so it's not helping others.
It's critical that we all wear the masks until the virus numbers come down dramatically, which probably will be the beginning of the summer.
So you're in masks till the beginning of the summer, best case scenario, if you get the vaccine.
If I already had COVID and I have antibodies, do I need the vaccine? Yes, we don't have a test.
Good Lord. Now he's an immunology expert, and he's saying that even if you've had COVID, you don't have immunity. The vaccine gives you that, but your natural immunity isn't as good. So Bill Gates and drug companies are better than God's design. Really?
So the antibodies you have are general, and it doesn't mean you have immunity to the virus. So
good Lord. He's saying the antibodies you have, if you've had COVID and you have the antibodies, are general and they're not specific to the virus. Okay, so that's the first time in the history of the world this has happened. So what's different about this virus that has changed the way God created our immune system to work?
Everyone who prior had the virus needs to get this vaccine to build antibodies and T cells to fight it.
Because the antibodies that you're going to build with the man-made vaccine are better than the antibodies that you would build with God's immunity creation that he designed.
Number 4, I have allergies and I'm on different medications. Is it okay to get this vaccine? And the answer is uniformly yes. There is no interaction with...
Good Lord. Okay, we've already had interactions. Uniformly yes? Really? You're still saying this? Even though we've had serious anaphylactic reactions to the PEG part, especially in other parts of the vaccine. Holy cow.
In this vaccine. So it is really important that we all get it, especially people with other medical conditions, which goes to the next question. If I have a suppressed immune system, is it safe to take this vaccine? And yes, mainly because...
Oh my gosh. So yeah, there is no live virus in this vaccine. He's right about that because it's a brand new technology that's never been tested, messing with your DNA using modified RNA. So this is all theory, but he's stating it as fact. And we're going to get to the point about what he's saying here with the FDA inserts.
There's no live virus in this. So if you have cancer, Guillain-Barré syndrome, autoimmune diseases, it is okay. It is safe to take this vaccine.
Okay, and we're going to get to that also in the inserts.
Vaccine safe for children? And the answer to that is we just don't know yet. In the United States, we do clinical trials first in adults. And it's safe. We then will try it in pregnant women and children. And so that stage is now. And so we have to test the safety first in younger kids and pregnant women before we say it's okay for them to take it.
Okay, that's the first thing you said that's true, because he agrees now with the FDA inserts that I've seen. And he's also saying that we haven't gotten into the normal phases of trials because this whole thing has been rushed so much. So it hasn't gone through normal trials, and the kids and pregnant women haven't been tested yet because we're in early stages. And the people who are receiving the current vaccine right now are the testers for the other phases that normally would be done in a controlled circumstance and situation, but it's not. And that's why another reason it's so scary is because if you've had the vaccine, you're a tester.
What are some of the normal side effects and how could they last? This is critical. Most people get side effects, which is good. It's your immune system reacting to this vaccine.
For normal vaccines that are designed like a normal vaccine, it's true. You've got a live or attenuated virus, and it's going to be your immune system reacting to that and the stuff that go with it to try to make your immune system overreact so that it also sees the live or attenuated virus and reacts to that along with it. Usually that doesn't work based on the track record of past vaccines. It sometimes often fails miserably, like with all the coronavirus vaccines they've ever tried. But now this is a new system, so he's making claims on a new untested system.
A pain in the arm, the injection site, fever, chills, fatigue, all of which are common, all of which go away after 24 to 48 hours.
Which is true for past vaccines that are designed like vaccines, but still, again, this is new technology, hasn't been tested fully. So he's extrapolating to new technology from old technology.
It is critical that you're aware of this. If you feel bad the next day, that's pretty normal and it will get better. And Tylenol is a remarkable antidote for most of the side effects related to this vaccine. Number 8, how long after getting the vaccine do we know we're protected? How long will the protection last? Well, it is 1 week after the second shot. So the second shot in most of them is at day 21. With the Moderna, it's day 28. A week later, so 3 or 4 weeks after the first shot, you will have immunity. How long will it last? Well, we know it lasts at least 6.
You will have immunity. Well, we'll look at the inserts on these claims too.
Months. And my gut is it will last at least a year. The hopefully is significant.
So he's saying it'll last at least 6 months, but his gut, as a professor, says it's going to last at least a year, though hopefully significantly longer. Okay. Yeah.
Longer. So probably a year or two, and then we may need a booster shot. It's not clear. But
so if he's saying worst case scenario 6 months, best case scenario a year, why wouldn't we need a shot every 6 months to a year until they decide the coronavirus has gone away?
At least buy that immunity, just like the flu shot. It may be mixed in. So every year you get a flu shot with a little bit of the COVID-19 vaccine.
Oh, good Lord. That's a scenario that terrifies me. Wow. So they add that to the, don't even get me started.
If we get the vaccine, number 9, is there a chance you'll be asymptomatic and transmit the virus? Well, with the AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine, the answer is no.
Okay, so the first 2 vaccines, he said you can transmit the virus. Now, the AstraZeneca's vaccine, he says, no, they fixed that. But he says it doesn't matter which of the 3 you get. You should just rush to get it, which is Pfizer at this point. That doesn't have that. So he's already said, given us a reason to wait, but he says, no, go ahead and rush. So another example of him contradicting himself.
Other 2 vaccines, Moderna and Pfizer, they did not test this, so we don't know yet. And so that's why
we don't know yet. So why is he so sure and giving numbers like 100%?
Wearing a mask is still going to be critical after the vaccine is out. Number 10, how much will it cost me, the vaccine? And the answer is 0. The government has paid for all of the vaccines in the country. There is an administration fee in most, if not all cases, that's covered by insurance. And those without insurance, the states are figuring out a way, most of them at least, to cover those costs. So we can all get the vaccine without worrying about the economics of it,
That's great. So you get this free experimental vaccine without having to pay for it. Isn't that fantastic? Makes it a lot easier to be put in this huge experiment that's being run right now on untested technology.
Is critical. So a few questions, a few answers. Thank you for asking them, and we're happy to answer more going forward.
Okay. Let's look at some PDFs, shall we? I suggest we start with Pfizer, since that's the one that's out right now. Fact sheet, fda.gov. This is the insert. And this, obviously you can see they're showing you how to do it, administer it. And all right, contraindications. Do not administer this vaccine to individuals with known history of severe allergic reaction. Okay. Dude said people with allergies is just fine. No worries. That's not what the insert says. In fact, it says medical treatment used to manage immediate allergic reactions must be immediately available. Immediately available means chances of anaphylactic shock. And then here's another interesting. Immunocompromised persons may have diminished immune response. It's not what dude said. And then the insert says vaccine may not protect all vaccine recipients. Dude said it was 100% protective in certain ways. Adverse reactions. The insert says fatigue, headache, muscle pain, chills, joint pain, fever, swelling, redness, nausea, malaise, swelling in your lymph nodes. Severe allergic reactions have been reported. And then there says something here about during mass vaccination outside of clinical trials. Okay, need to know more about that. Additional adverse reactions, some of which may be serious, may become apparent with more widespread use. If you've had the vaccine, that's you. They're talking about you. So hopefully it won't become apparent with you. And here we, scrolling down, find FDA has authorized the emergency use. It's not an FDA approved vaccine. The recipient or their caregiver has the option to accept or refuse. It's optional. It's great. It's on the insert. In order to mitigate the risks of using this unapproved product under emergency use. And then they talk about how important it is. Mandatory reporting of adverse events. And they give you the site to go to. Serious events, so to be reported, including such things as death, life-threatening adverse event, inpatient hospitalization. Didn't he say can't go to the hospital? Totally will keep you out of the hospital? Why would they list that here? Disruption of the ability to conduct normal life functions. Scrolling down, it is reasonable to believe that the vaccine may be effective. So scrolling down, page 17, the safety evaluation in study 2, we've done study 1, is ongoing. Okay, still evaluating the safety. Scrolling. Again, they talk about mandatory reporting. Okay, here they talk about pregnancy where the data is not available, insufficient data, and also on individuals younger than 16. And here they talk about older people, where they used a sample of 4,300 people were 65 ages older and 860 people were 75 years or older. Okay, so the people the 75 and older are supposed to be most effective by this. So they're telling us they've only tested 860 people. That is such a small population when you're talking about how many millions of people are in that age group. And now we get down to the ingredient list, starting with number 1 ingredient, 30 micrograms of a nucleoside modified messenger RNA encoding the viral spike glycoprotein. Okay, so what does that mean? That's not the actual ingredients. That's a concept. That's like getting a food label and seeing sweetener as the first ingredient. Like, okay, what does that mean? Is it sugar? Is it stevia? Is it high fructose corn syrup? What is it? And then it talks about, the things, the fat layers that are covering it, plus the PEG, polyethylene glycol, which is what everybody is reacting to. Because a lot of people, 8% in fact, of the people out there are already sensitive to that just off the bat. So when dude was saying, if you have allergic issues, this is perfectly safe, he does not know what he's talking about. Scrolling. Okay, so that's it for Pfizer. Let's take a look at Moderna. And it's important to know that Moderna has never produced a vaccine before. They're not actually a vaccine company, although their name tells you what they are. It starts with MOD for modified. It ends with RNA. So they're a modified RNA company, not a vaccine company. First one they've ever done. You're the guinea pigs. So here's their insert. Known benefits: reduction in the risk of COVID-19 occurring at least 14 days after the second dose of the vaccine. So talks about the delay, and which is normal for any vaccine that the dude talked about. 2-dose vaccine regimen, same with Pfizer. And this is interesting. The vaccine was effective in preventing COVID-19 using a less restrictive definition of the disease. Okay, what do you mean by that? Efficacy estimate in participants age 65 and older was slightly lower. Okay, that's the population that most needs this. So duration of protection, not possible to assess sustained efficacy over a period of longer than 2 months because it was rushed, tested. But this guy seems to come up with the number of 6 months, and his gut says a year. So I don't know where he comes up with that. We don't know that from the actual manufacturers of these vaccines. So MODeRNA vaccine says the risk for people, or effectiveness for people with HIV and high risk populations, is too small to evaluate. So the company says they don't know. Dude says he knows. Then again, limited data. People may benefit. Participants with a known history of SARS-CoV-2 infection were excluded from phase 3 study. Study was not designed to assess the benefit in individuals with prior SARS. Why? Dude said, if you've had it, you should get it. So the manufacturer says, we didn't even look at it. But dude said, oh yeah, you should get it. And then again, they didn't test people 17 and younger population, which is appropriate in my opinion because their risk is so low. So they probably don't need to get it. The people over 65 do, and they've not been tested thoroughly because the numbers are so small. Okay, evolution of the pandemic characteristics, as well as potential changes in the virus, significant mutations. So because of all that, continued evaluation to address these uncertainties needs to happen. Interesting. So they're saying, the vaccine might not work for mutations as this virus continues to change, like they all do, and quite fast. Data are limited against asymptomatic infection. Not what dude seems to think. Additional evaluations will be needed. It's not what dude seems to think. Effectiveness against long-term effects of the disease. MODeRNA says that's not possible to assess. So if you're getting the vaccine, don't have your false sense of security this is going to protect you long-term. Although dude said 6 to 12 months, MODeRNA says people could get reinfected despite getting the vaccine, but it should translate to overall prevention. Although it is possible that asymptomatic infections may not be prevented as effectively as symptomatic infections. Okay, why? It's the same virus. So they're saying people with a healthier immune system might not be as effective because they're the ones that are asymptomatic? Or is it just that they were false positive tested with the PCR that's completely inaccurate? Anyways, they say additional evaluations will be needed. They say that a lot. Now, vaccine effectiveness against dying. A large number of individuals at high risk for COVID and higher attack rates would be needed to confirm efficacy against dying. So they're not making a claim. And they end with benefits in preventing death should be evaluated in large observational studies following authorization. Okay, and that's you. If you're taking the vaccine, you are the large observational study following authorization. Then they come down, vaccine effectiveness against transmission. Data are limited. Individuals who are infected despite vaccination may translate to overall prevention of transmission, may translate with high enough vaccine uptake. So if your body is responsive to the vaccine, it may translate. But if your body doesn't have very good vaccine uptake, it may not translate. So in other words, we're not sure. We really have no idea. Then they say asymptomatic cases in combination with reduced mask wearing and social distancing could result in significant continued transmission. So they're saying you still have to do everything, the social distancing and the mask wearing after you get this vaccine, even if you're asymptomatic. So no matter what, you got to keep doing the mandates, and we're not guaranteeing it's going to protect others. So if your reason to getting the vaccine is to protect others, then think again. So now we're talking about known risks. They usually just last a few days. That's what dude said. But usually, and he talked about the pain at the injection site, just take a Tylenol. But here they're also talking about fatigue, headache, muscle pain, joint pain, chills, aka fever, like the Pfizer vaccine listed, but Pfizer listed even more. But here's an interesting statement. Generally mild, blah, blah, blah. These events reported severe. Severe? Yeah, with severe adverse reactions being more frequent after dose 2. So they did have severe. Oh, yes. The MODeRNA vaccine reported lots of severe, but dude doesn't think so. Apparently, he didn't read all the reports from MODeRNA about that. And again, this swelling of the lymph nodes. And then down here, they said no anaphylaxis or hypersensitivity reactions with close temporal relation to the vaccine. What that means is, there were major anaphylactic and hypersensitivity reactions, but they explained them away. So, it's not related to the vaccine. And this is how it works with the drug companies doing their own studies pushing through the FDA. The FDA considered 3 as related: nausea, vomiting, facial swelling, rheumatoid arthritis, edema, autonomic dysfunction, lymphoma, Bell's palsy, for which a causal relationship to the vaccine cannot be concluded. So I just put a note down here. I'd rather take my age group chances of getting COVID than go against all these up here. Safety in certain subpops. There are currently insufficient data to make conclusions about younger people and pregnant and lactating women and immunocompromised individuals. But down here, they say that studies on female rats concluded it's okay, did not have any effects on female reproduction, fetal embryonal development, or postnatal development, except for skeletal variations, which are common and typically resolve postnatally without intervention. Okay, so rat studies aren't actually very helpful in cases like this, because when they do rat studies, when they find stuff, that's just a red flag to say, we should do some human studies to see if this applies to humans as well. A good scientist won't even include discussion about rats in a package insert for humans. Good Lord. Adverse reactions following authorization of the vaccine, use in large numbers of individuals, that's you, the test group now, may reveal additional, potentially less frequent and or more serious adverse events not detected in the trial. Okay. I'd rather not be in that testing group. And they do talk about cases of Bell's palsy, and further detection of these adverse events will be informative with more widespread use of the vaccine. That's you. And then they end with risk of vaccine-enhanced disease over time, potentially associated with waning immunity, remains unknown and needs to be evaluated further. That's you. You're testing it. You're evaluating that for them. And look into this here, vaccine-enhanced disease over time. Yeah. So in animal studies, what they found is the ones who got these RNA vaccines and were re-exposed to the thing they were supposed to be vaccinated against later had a vaccine-enhanced reaction. So look into that. And the waning immunity, that's normal. But dude in the video said 6 to 12 months. Natural immunity is much longer because God did a lot better job at designing it than man can. And there you have it. So again, in summary, we're looking for these things in a vaccine. We want it to prevent our death. We want it to help prevent giving it to others so they don't die or get sick. We're looking for it to prevent us from getting sick and others from getting sick, to avoid the discomfort of the symptoms of when you're sick, and hopefully not to cause worse symptoms than actually getting what it's supposed to vaccinate you from. We also want to prevent long-term damage from the virus. We want immunity from future infections. We want immunity from reinfection. We want immunity from mutations. cousin mutations that is essentially the same virus, but it just mutated like viruses do all the time. Our innate, natural, God-given immunity covers that. So we want that from a man-made vaccine too, right? It's reasonable. So with all that in mind, these things make me go, Now we have an article here. England's National Health Service warned Wednesday that people with a history of significant allergic reaction to a vaccine, medicine, or food should not be given the Pfizer vaccine. These warnings came after 2 of their own government employees were part of the first tranche to receive the vaccine who suffered adverse reactions. But dude said, don't worry about it. I guarantee you more of these reports are going to be coming out. We're going to hear them from other countries before we hear it from this country because we're suppressing our information. But if you subscribe to freedom of speech platforms like Parler, Parler, and do your searches on duckduckgo.com, you'll find out a lot more information than if you use other sources of social media and information that are censored and do all your searches on Google, which would be ridiculous. And especially listening to the mainstream news. Just don't do it because they've got their own narrative and the major social media are just following lockstep to that narrative. So if you really want to do your own research and you really want to know, then look into the non-censored sources. Or you could go to xgym.com to read some of my blog topics, because even if they take down my videos and censor my posts in social media, they can't take my website away, at least not yet. But I'm going to continue to fight for free speech and the truth as long as I can, and I don't care what it costs because I believe in liberty and I believe in our Constitution. Okay, so that's what I have to say about LIOP, and bless you and keep seeking the truth, your own truth. Don't believe anyone. Find out your own truth for yourself. Okay, bye-bye.
And that's all I have to say about that.